Hey everybody, what's happening? Neil back once again with another quick streaming review for you. Today, I will be looking at Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 3, otherwise known as Part 3, because there's no real titles to these episodes, I don't believe. It's just Part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And, yeah, I had to. I couldn't resist. I had to review Episode 3, and yes, there will be spoilers. So, spoiler alert. One more time. Alright, you've been warned. Spoilers. Okay. Moving on. Now, back to the story. This story right now in episode 3 picks up as Obi-Wan and Leia are trying to escape the Empire and the Inquisitors and all that, and they're trying to get Leia back to Alderaan, but they wind up on this planet called Mapuzo, and we actually wind up learning a smidge about Obi-Wan's family before he went to the Jedi Order. I guess before he was discovered to be Force sensitive, and they had to send him off, because that was the way. Back then, back in the day, that was the way. So that's pretty cool to learn, a little bit about that. Anakin Skywalker also appears to Obi-Wan in a daydream, a mirage, like some kind of hallucination of some kind. And I really had to squint my eyes to see that it was actually Hayden Christensen playing Anakin as he was, before he was burned, before the end of Revenge of the Sith. And just in the robe there, the robe was kind of covering his face. And that was really interesting, and it kind of freaked me out a bit. I was like, whoa, I had to do a double take, but so did Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan looks back again, and Anakin's gone. So that's what makes me think, okay, is he hallucinating? Is this, I don't know. He's feeling the Force, just feeling the presence, perhaps foreshadowing the future, Always emotion is the future. So I don't know. Maybe it was an emotional mirage, Who knows? I mean, there's so many possibilities in Star Wars. It's such a crazy fantasy land, but there are still, rules to it. But we'll see. We'll have to wait and see what the deal is with that, perhaps later on. Now, we also get Riva here, who is the third sister. She speaks with Lord Vader himself. So yes, we finally get Darth Vader, and it's so great to hear him speak. It's James Earl Jones, and I don't know if they're messing with the voice or not with other voices, like they used a re-speecher for Luke Skywalker not too long ago, but this sounds just like straight up James Earl Jones, just like every other Darth Vader performance. So it's fantastic to hear that. He says to Riva, the third sister, that, if you wind up finding Obi-Wan Kenobi, then you will be promoted to Grand Inquisitor. However, if you don't, I'm going to kill you. So, yeah, there's that threat going on. Reva, played by Moses Ingram, is very good. She's a very cool, badass character. And we also get Quinlan Voss. The surviving Jedi is mentioned here. He's from the animated Clone Wars series, and he was also in The Phantom Menace very briefly, in the Tatooine scene with Jar Jar and Sebulba there, I think. If you pause your Blu-ray, you can zoom in and you'll see him there. He's mentioned as someone smuggling younglings away, so, obviously doing good for the Jedi Order, trying to keep them alive, keep them from going extinct. And he's mentioned after a rebel named Tala, or she's an underground person anyway. She's rebelling against the Empire anyway, and she's played by Indira Varma. She's from Game of Thrones. And she saves them from these stormtroopers by posing as an Imperial officer. So that was cool, because we really thought that, at one point Obi-Wan and Leia were going to get captured, but she winds up being the infiltrator in disguise. And the Inquisitors, accompanied by Vader himself, show up on the planet. Darth Vader winds up killing some of these townspeople to lure Obi-Wan out of hiding, because he knows Obi-Wan's there. And Leia and Tala, they're told to go ahead by Obi-Wan so he can go and distract Vader, basically buy them some time. Unfortunately, it's been 10 years, and Obi-Wan is quite rusty, and Darth Vader knocks the poodoo out of him. And he says to Obi-Wan, your suffering has just begun, and sets Obi-Wan on fire after force choking him and dragging him into this fire. So, yeah, kind of letting him know, what it feels like, Obi-Wan. It's obviously revenge and everything, and against Obi-Wan has been on Vader's mind for 10 years, and it's 10 years of bent-up frustration, whereas Kenobi's very rusty. He's not the same Kenobi that beat Anakin back then. So Tala actually winds up rescuing Kenobi, though, thankfully and luckily and kind of predictably and naturally. I mean, of course, Obi-Wan's not going to die yet. So Reva catches up with Leia, unfortunately, and Reva, she pursues her, like Leia runs away from her, but we assume that Leia's been captured now by Reva, who was left all alone by Tala, so she could go rescue Obi-Wan. Oh my. So we'll have to see what happens in the next episode with that. So yeah, we are getting Leia. We are getting 10-year-old Leia, I guess, throughout the whole thing, and that doesn't bother me at all. It might give some people the wrong impression, like, oh, she's going to be the star of the show now. Oh, she's the new Grogu, and well, yes and no. I mean, I don't know. She's fine, though, to me. She's Princess Leia, I mean, we need more of these beloved characters, younger versions of them. That's the whole point. This is a prequel, so hey, I got no complaints about Leia. I thought it was a really good episode overall. Vader, the sadistic stuff where he's killing the townsfolk and everything, that was really badass. That was great to see, the character do, because he is that menacing. He really is that terrifying. Maybe more terrifying than we've ever seen him before. In this episode 3, this is amazing. Really great job here by everyone involved with the Vader stuff, certainly. However, the low light to Vader's highlight, I think, is Obi-Wan being a little rusty. He's a little too rusty. He's a little too disappointing. He slips up at one point, and he winds up calling Princess Leia by her name. He says Leia right in front of the stormtroopers, who are, of course, dumber than doorknobs, of course, and they can't really see anything in their helmets, so they can't, they're totally blind, it seems. They can't see that Obi-Wan is right in front of them. Oh, Jay, it's a guy who looks just like Obi-Wan Kenobi with the brown robes, and hey, don't Jedi wear brown robes? And it's like, how could they not see him right away, So that was kind of extra dumb, I guess. I mean, we can kind of accept stormtroopers to be that dumb, but for Obi-Wan to not be as, wily and crafty and spry as we saw him in A New Hope, right? I mean, he was tricking stormtroopers and everything, and he knew how to handle people at the cantina, and he knew how to deal with Han Solo. He could deal with anybody, obviously. Obi-Wan was a man. He was an older man at that point, and this is a little younger Obi-Wan, and yet it's still like, well, this Obi-Wan would make that mistake? Anyone would. Anyone human would, but I think Obi-Wan is just such a level up, in terms of a hero character, and he's so powerful and so smart and everything. I just didn't buy the idea that he would slip up like that. I just went, that's a little disappointing. And the fact that he slips up, it all seems like it was an excuse just to bring up Padme, because Obi-Wan's excuse for saying Leia out loud is that, I guess Leia was her mother's name, and she reminds me of her mother, which is true, right? I mean, obviously, Leia reminds Obi-Wan of Padme, and they have a little conversation about that, and she's like, oh, you knew my mother, and she was a good friend, and blah, 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 but, and so on. That's good, though. That's good kind of fan service, but it just seemed like an excuse, like I said, to bring up Padme. It just seemed like kind of, let's just throw that in there. But, all right, what the heck. In terms of any other criticisms, the only other thing I got to say is that they're kind of teetering with continuity. They're being very dangerous with the continuity, which may upset some very serious Star Wars fans that, really care about the canon. Star Wars, to me, you could treat it like a comic book where it's like, okay, this is a different interpretation of Superman or Batman or Spider-Man, and like not everything is the same in terms of the origin this time around. And it's, are they going to change things? Is that okay? Well, in Star Wars, it might not be okay, because, I mean, Star Wars is mainly a film and television / streaming, medium sort of thing. So it really is important for them to stick to the continuity, I think, as closely as they can. There are some issues with certain characters that are like, well, isn't this character alive later? Yeah, okay, well, they'll probably, figure that out and say, yes, they're alive, they're okay. Like the Grand Inquisitor, for example, I assume is going to be okay and alive because of continuity with Rebels. Star Wars Rebels, that TV show. So strange. Also, a lot of the lines in certain, things like certain films, like The Empire Strikes Back, when Yoda says, no, there is another, after Obi-Wan says, that boy was our last hope, I guess Obi-Wan didn't know that Leia was Force sensitive. He just knew right? I mean, Obi-Wan knew that Leia was Luke's sister, but he didn't know that she had the Force too. It's kind of, really? Well, okay. I don't know. Maybe these are things to just kind of look back in hindsight and go, maybe I could retcon that, a little bit. If you're if you're the producer, you might say that. But regardless, like I said, you just got to be careful with the canon. But otherwise, despite that, and other things, I'm not sure why Vader would, just halt his pursuit of Obi-Wan just because of fire. But you'd think he'd be kind of used to fire by now. But they'll meet again, I'm sure. Will we see Yoda? Will we see or even hear from Qui-Gon Jinn? Who knows, right? I know we'll get Owen and Beru and Luke. We got to get a little bit more of those guys, I would think. I would assume, but we'll see. I mean, it's best not to assume and just be patient, and wait for the next episode. But for episode 3 here, part 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, I am going to give it an 8 out of 10 because it is so big and meaty and big and bouncy. It's a very, very good episode. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Just a couple of things that we got to watch out for here. But the Vader stuff, man, that makes up for any kind of minor misgiving, certainly. All right, guys, that's all for this review of Obi-Wan Episode 3. Until next time, this is Neil. May the Force be with you.